Hey guys, welcome to Life and Style with Francyne. I am your host, Francyne Walker. Thanks for tuning in. Today's guest is Vince McCraw. He is the Detroit Chapter National Association Black Journalist President. Say that three times fast, otherwise known as NABJ. Vince is here to talk about an awesome program that has been going on, and we'll get a little bit more into that. But it's the Black Male Media Project that's happening this Saturday. He's going to talk a little bit more about that and how you can be a part of it and attend right from your computer. Hey, Vince.
Hi, how are you, Francine?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for the invitation.
Well, thank you for joining me. You know, we talked about this. I was at the meeting, fortunate enough to be at the planning meeting during one of the chapter meetings where we were planning to do this particular program outside as it normally happens as far as a venue. So, of
Correct.
course,
Correct.
the Rona hit and just said, no, we've got other plans. Talk about the initiative that started this program or this webinar event. Talk a little bit about the Black Male Media Project.
Sure. The Male Media Project is a 4-year-old initiative now of the national NABJ, started by the former president, Sarah Glover.
Okay.
And the idea behind it for the past 4 years is for each chapter, there are about 40 chapters of NABJ around the country. For each chapter that can and wants to participate, to hold programming in their communities that would highlight Black males, as well as talk about the challenges Black males face, the successes Black males are having, and their image, and primarily because we are a media nonprofit organization,
Sure.
advocacy group, to talk about the images of Black males in the media. So, with that, chapters for the past 4 years, and some maybe the first time this year, have been putting on programming. Uh, our first year was in 2018
Okay.
when we did an issue about how the local Black men in Detroit are viewed and seen by others, particularly portrayals in the media. The
Okay.
second year, we did the challenges that Black men face with mental health issues. And these were all in person kinds of programming with panelists, moderators, experts on the various issues, and even some young people who also are affected. So that's been generally the thrust of the Black Male Media Project. This year, on Saturday, and it's always on a single day in June, usually the first Saturday in June.
Right.
All the chapters that are participating do this. And the hashtag we use is Inspire Black Men, hashtag Inspire Black Men. So that's what's happening this Saturday. And I think there are about 20, for last I heard, there were about 24, 25 NAB chapters around the country that will be participating.
Oh, that's amazing. You know, we can certainly agree, given from everything to the pandemic, police brutality, we've been hit hard
Yes.
as it relates to news. We're just talking about that.
Right.
And so, what is the theme for this particular male media project, Black Male Media Project?
Well, the initial theme was just going to be looking at Black male entrepreneurs in the city here of Detroit and the challenges and successes they face and how they're covered or not covered in the media. But given all that has happened in the past 2 months,
Yes.
we decided that we would uh, expand on the topic and on the theme. So now our theme is Black Lives Matter, Black Businesses Matter. And we'll have the same panelists talking about not only their businesses and their efforts as Black entrepreneurs, but also how the effects of COVID-19, how the effects of the shootings most recently, and the protests
Yes.
and public health, like public health pandemic, have affected not only them personally, but their businesses and how they see themselves, their employees, and even us as a community persevering through this.
Well, you talk about the businesses, and I know I've noticed that with the businesses, with the PPP, the lack of access to those funds, and how they were disproportionately spread about, it has definitely affected our businesses. Some businesses are even considering closing. So
Right,
this is a
right.
would you say this is a very timely? We didn't foresee this in February.
No, we didn't. And this is, let me sort of just briefly give a little timeline. In February, we talked about doing an in-person, as we normally would do,
Yep.
in-person. People come and gather at some venue, and we would have this panel. We were also even talking about trying to hold a vending piece where black male entrepreneurs of all stripes in the city, uh, young, old. Uh, would come and sell their wares to those who assemble. Well, of course, now we can't do that piece. But and then sometime in March, I think, when we all got the stay-at-home orders, and we were still planning for in person, but we realized that this was not going to happen in person on June 6th. So we
Sure.
switched gears to start planning for a webinar, and then other things started happening. There was the Ahmaud Arbery shooting in
Yeah.
Brunswick, Georgia. There was the shooting by police of Breonna Taylor in
Thank you.
Louisville,
Yes.
and then just the past couple of weeks, the choking, if you will, of George Floyd by police in Minneapolis.
Yes.
And then protests have started all around the country. So that's when we realized about a week and a half ago that now we need to, because of these confluence of events, we need to incorporate all of that into our webinar. And we think it makes sense, and we think there's a correlation because Black businesses are affected.
Yes.
Black entrepreneurs, be they male or female, are affected by all of these events. Um, ours just happens to be focused on Black male entrepreneurs, but it affects all Black business owners and entrepreneurs. So that's how we get to where we're going to be Saturday in Saturday's webinar, where we'll cover all those aspects as it relates to Black entrepreneurs.
I think it's important to note that not just men can be in attendance for this webinar, but women
Right,
as well.
right, right. While the focus has always been on the images of Black males in the media and whatever whatever themes chapters choose, it's not exclusionary. Women can attend. I mean, we've had women in our membership, the chapter, who have helped out and helped on the campaign and the coordinating and all
Mhm.
those kinds of things. And women can attend. In this case, attend the webinar, sign up for the webinar, which will be on Facebook Live. I should say that.
Right. That's
It's,
right. We were going to get to that.
yeah, Saturday, starting at noon to 1:30 p.m. Uh,
Okay.
on our Facebook Live page on Facebook Live.
And I'll make sure I put that link there so
Okay,
that
great.
people, once I post this, people can have that information because it's definitely something very vital. Talk a little bit about who's going to be in attendance and the format as far as how it's going to flow.
Sure. And pardon me, I have to. I know this at the top of my head, but just in
That's
case
okay.
I don't want to forget anybody. So will it be? It'll be a panel sort of situation. Um, what you'll see in the beginning is I think the committee is doing a little intro kind of thing. Then you'll see me coming on, welcoming folks to the webinar and giving them just a brief description of what we'll be doing for that hour, 90 minutes. And then I'll introduce the moderator. This year's moderator is Rudy Hopper, the
Yes.
reporter at WXYZ TV. He's been in town for about a year now.
Okay.
We asked him if he would participate as the moderator. He graciously agreed, and he will be our moderator. Our main panel will consist of 4 or 5 business people. Uh, Moses Shepard, the CEO of Ace Petroleum, Theodore McNeil, who's the CEO of a real estate design and development firm,
Nice.
Ron Bartel, who's CEO of RJ Development, but most people know him as the owner and CEO of Cuzzo's Chicken over
Okay.
in Brightmoor.
Now the Bartell, that's from the Bartell family because they have several different
Correct.
retail
Correct.
businesses and whatnot. So
Correct.
interesting. That's cool.
That's exactly who that is.
Yeah.
We'll also have Tyler Clifford. Now, Tyler is a native of Detroit, but right now he's a web producer and a reporter at CNBC in New York City. He's
Awesome.
been there just about a year now. Before he left here, the city, to go to CNBC, he was a reporter at Crane's Detroit Business. So he'll be on the panel to talk about, from his perspective, as someone um, who is, as a black inside the media, get to offer his perspective. So that's the primary panel,
Okay.
and and there'll be questions to all of them. We'll even take questions from the viewers uh, to give to the panel. Then we'll have a second piece toward the end uh, that will be panel. The panelists there will be James Hill, the senior news director at the Detroit Free Press, and his colleague Jim Schaefer, the senior editor for business and investigations at the Free Press, and we'll basically have them talking about uh, how they cover or do not cover uh, black males, black businesses, black male entrepreneurs, black businesses. And hopefully, after they hear some of the discussion, they too will be able to offer their insights about not just the workings of their newspaper and how they go about these coverage of these issues, but what these entrepreneurs on the panel and other entrepreneurs listening can do to attract coverage to whatever it is they wish to do. So,
Now,
and that's pretty much the outline of the 90 minutes.
now, Vince, as a former journalist, longtime renowned journalist, would you say it's important to have those people at the table that are making those decisions as it
Absolutely.
relates to
Absolutely.
what's being covered and how it's being covered? Because I know I've been in the newsroom, and a lot of times I would think a story should be covered, and it has to be judged along the lines, or the criteria is, if it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I don't know if we want to necessarily always cover those kinds of stories. I mean, they have their place, but it's good to know that will have staff from the Free Press, as well as Tyler
Yeah,
Clifford,
Tyler.
who are on the front lines, if we will, in media, and see how things are,
Yeah.
decided, and maybe have an understanding. I mean, I'm looking at the protest, and I'm looking at the corporate fallout, and how people are taking a line in the sand as it relates to Black Lives Matter, racial injustice. A lot of companies, it would behoove a lot of companies to come forward and say where they stand, and of course take action after the social media um, grandstand, if you will. And I don't necessarily mean that it's insincere when I say that, but it's like, okay, that's great that you're doing this corporate letter, but then there has to be some work behind that. So,
Right. Right. And I think you're on point with that. And I think as it relates to the media, not just locally but nationally, I mean the whole mission of NABJ is not only for the advocacy of Black journalists and newsrooms, but also for the advocacy of coverage,
absolutely.
fair and balanced and
Yes.
inclusive coverage of a community, uh,
Yes.
and that's our mission. And to that end, the Black Male Media Project, through the years, 4 years, that's been it. And I think, and I do believe that with this webinar, those who, not just those on the panel, but those listening in who have a story to tell or believe they have a story to tell, will hear from people on the inside who make the decisions how they can get their story told.
Sure.
Oftentimes, people don't know how to even who to approach or how to approach a news outlet. They may send blindly out a press release or do make a blind call, and often they find that it ends up nowhere. It's often best, and as you know, it's often best to if you can find a contact within the
Yes.
newsroom, you know,
Yes.
name, number, and a relationship that you can build to have your story told. So those kinds of pointers, I hope and I believe will be given out on Saturday.
So when you have someone at the table or have someone hearing the heart or hearing, the injustices or the lack of coverage, it like I said, it takes action and understanding and discussion. So when you have someone from the Free Press there or any news outlet, whether it be media or broadcast or print
Right.
or web, radio, they understand the heart of the the story as from a Black person's perspective, whether it's a male or a female perspective, then that can create a culture in the newsroom where if someone would call in blindly, they might get that coverage because now the mindset has changed as a result of programs like this. Would
That's
you agree?
exactly right. That's absolutely correct. You know,
Yeah.
it's about diversity, inclusion, and equity.
Yes.
Not just in the newsroom in terms of staffing, but also in terms of coverage of wherever their coverage area is. That's exactly correct.
And we know that we appreciate people coming to the table to hear what has to be said, but it's a shift, and we're hopeful that that
Yes.
shift occurs. I mean, it definitely takes a look inside. It's not comfortable, but
No,
it's
it's not. It's not
meaningful.
comfortable. Right.
Because we have to look at ourselves, to remove more of that bias and filter through our own experiences. Just as journalists, it's like, okay, I might not feel, let me check that. So that's good
Right.
to
Right.
talk about and hear because everybody has a story and it's our job, right, to tell that story without bias, without it's just first of all, it's an honor to be a journalist,
Yes.
and facilitate the stories. But I think sometimes we get a little, you know, confused and we need that help. So talk a little bit about how one can register because I know I went through Eventbrite on the
Yeah,
page.
you can register through Eventbrite, but right now, but on the day of, and it's already there. The link for the webinar is already there. It won't be activated until noon on Saturday. But if you just
Okay.
go to Detroit NABJ's open public Facebook page, or just Google, I mean, find it on Facebook Live, you can join in. The
Sure.
registration is sort of for account,
Yeah.
but you can register and it's free through Eventbrite. Just look up Detroit NABJ Black Male Media Project, and you can
Mhm.
do the free registration there.
This sounds a this sounds like an amazing opportunity. It's almost like we're in this age, which has been a long time in place, media convergence, where we're being forced to utilize the technology in a different way. I'm looking at how the news stations are, trying to shelter in place, trying to exercise social distancing, but at the same time still getting the job done. So
Right,
do
right.
you see um, that going forward that may happen more so even as the outside opens up?
I think so because they think they find that, and they have found that particularly over the past 2.5, 3 months, that these tools are useful. Clearly, when times like these, but I think even going forward, uh, they can be used in a useful way for telling stories, for coverage,
Sure.
um, and maybe not necessarily always having to, and I don't advocate um, them not using the bodies that they
Absolutely.
have,
Yeah.
because that's another issue. And that's another issue that a lot of media companies will have to be dealing with as things open back up, because they've
Sure.
lost resources and revenue during this.
Yeah.
So that'll be another aspect that we have to keep our eyes on. But
Yeah.
yeah,
We
surely,
definitely don't want to eliminate jobs.
no, absolutely not.
You know.
Though we understand it's happening and we understand, but the less of it that can occur, the better. And we have to be vigilant that we blacks and people of color are disproportionately affected when these furloughs, layoffs, and such start happening or continue to happen.
Absolutely. Yes. One of the things that it sounds exciting is the fact that this will air, and then it be available
Yeah,
afterwards
yes, we'll
as an
post it.
archive?
Yeah, we'll post it on all our platforms, on Facebook, Twitter. I think we have a YouTube channel that we're trying to work out some technicalities, so we may not have it ready for Saturday. But
Okay.
yeah, the replay will be available uh, on various platforms, and I'm sure our members and those panelists will probably push it out on their various platforms. So
Absolutely.
so
Seems a great, yeah.
it'll be around.
Yes. In the event, but the advantage of tuning in on Saturday is that you will have the opportunity to pose a question,
Absolutely, absolutely.
versus the replay when
Yeah.
it's already aired.
Yeah.
So,
Well, there'll be a Q&A availability for those tuning in to ask
okay.
their questions of the business folks, or even of the two reps from the Free Press.
Wow. I'm trying to think if there anything else that we have not covered as it relates to the event. It's going to be on the Facebook page, which is
Detroit NABJ. I think the open page is actually Detroit chapter, National Association of Black Journalists.
okay. And I'll make sure I link that in the comment
Yeah.
section so that, and I'll push it out for the next
Thank
couple
you.
of days.
Thank you very much.
It's my honor always. I was excited when we were talking about it. And so it's good to see my little contribution to it
Yes.
to
Yeah.
come to fruition because it's needful. And again, women
Oh,
can
absolutely.
attend. Anybody
Yeah.
can tune in if they
Anybody
have
can tune in.
Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
So, and
absolutely.
ask a question.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
but all questions might not necessarily be answered, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
And there will be a time limit in terms of the whole. It's only 90 minutes, I think,
90
noon
minutes.
to 1:30.
Because
So
it's usually about 2 hours when it's at a venue, just has
yeah,
lunch included.
yeah. We usually have some kind of refreshments or a meal or something, and then people sort of linger afterwards. But
Hmm.
we won't have that kind of in-person interaction this
Yeah.
time.
Well, this is awesome. Again, needful. Wow. During this climate, just watching how things are playing out. What's your thought on everything going on?
Well, as I said before, now I'm just at the point where I just say, whew.
I know.
It's much. It's much. And
Yeah.
someone asked me the other day if I'm optimistic uh, about the future. I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
Whether lasting, substantial, significant change comes out of any of this, I'm hopeful.
Yes. That's a good word. That is a very good word. So, especially yesterday after the charges and whatnot, someone said, "I'm not going to get excited. Charge doesn't equal conviction." It's like, but we have a starting point.
Right, right.
You
I mean,
know?
there's the process, and it's the process. We need to, and the whole idea, and the whole, frankly, one of the components of the uprisings and the protests is that the process appeared that it was not going to start. Not just in the George Floyd case, but even in the Aubrey case in Brunswick,
Yeah.
3 months after he was killed.
Atrocity.
It's not until, and then even then, once it became public 3 months after, it was the pressure and the national focus and
Yeah.
attention that got a charge. We want the process to be followed,
Yeah.
and then we go from there, and then we can make other decisions and other conclusions as we go along in the process.
And then we had to wait. We had to play that game where we were waiting on the one that filmed it.
Correct. Right.
And we were trying to figure out, what was his intent. I'm like,
Right.
Right. But and then Brianna.
Right.
So, and I know a lot of times, when women are murdered by the police, that gets less coverage. But
and it shouldn't. It really shouldn't, because it's just as important.
Yes, it is.
As Black men being assassinated and killed by police or vigilantes, for that matter.
Yeah.
So that's why we mentioned in our promotional stuff that we've been putting out on this, that we're talking about in the case of the police brutality issue, that we're talking about, at least most recently, with Breonna Taylor.
Yes. Yes.
But there have been others. I mean, obviously, Sandra Bland, and there have been others.
Yep. Corinne Gaines.
Yes.
Tatiana Jefferson.
Right.
I mean, if someone compiled an exhaustive list and it looked like a CVS receipt, what I mean? It was that long, and it's like, I can believe it, Yes. So, but just having these conversations, the uprisings, the peaceful protest, despite how it's being painted, it's all good, I think. And just bringing that to the forefront and having these conversations, crafting stories that talk about it and bring about change. So that's a good way to be hopeful.
And significant change often is messy, not pretty, and can be hurtful.
Yes.
Significant change.
Yes.
But we need to have it. We need to go through it.
Yeah.
We can only be hopeful that this time that's what will happen in a meaningful way.
Yes. Yes. And this project is certainly one of those instrumental pieces that will definitely inspire and be instrumental to that change. So
thank you. Thank you.
And once again, thank you for tuning in or joining me today to talk about the project. I'll be there. Can't wait to see how this plays out in the webinar. And it's not that a webinar is any, different but it's good to see this being played out this way. And just to see that the show will go on. That's all.
The show will go on. That's right.
The show will go on. It may not be at a venue, but it will be somewhere where we can still have these conversations and impact the life of Black men in a positive way. So
exactly.
I appreciate you, and thank you once again.
Thank you so much for the invite.
Oh, sure. Anything else you want to add before we sign off?
No, I think I've pretty much covered. You were quite thorough.
Yeah. That's what we do as journalists,
That's right.
So,
That's right.
I appreciate you. Okay.
You too. Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Okay. See you soon.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks again, Facebook, for tuning in to Life and Style with Francyne. The event is this Saturday, June 1st. I will post the information in the link so that you can register and be a part of the discussion and possibly ask some questions if you have any, and just understand how the process works. I will talk to you guys again the next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just hashtag Francyne Walker and my channel will come up. And you can be notified for the next guest that I will have. Or if you'd like to be a guest, be sure to drop me a line. Talk to you soon.